Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I'm back with Ben Foster. It's a big week for Manchester United. Well, it's a big weekend for Manchester United as many people think that we may well be in a title race now. We'll also be talking about that dubious red card for Casemiro and a big weekend for Harry Kane that maybe Ben will be saying that Harry Kane is the solution for Manchester United in the summer. We'll find out. But we're going to start off, Ben. I can see you're ready to talk. You keep going.
I'm good to go, mate. I want to dig in on stuff.
Title race, Manchester United.
Starting the title race, okay? In with a shout, mate. You think if we wouldn't let that Crystal Palace goal in a couple of weeks ago, we'd be 1 point behind Man City now. And
Arsenal's equaliser was so late as well.
That's what I mean. There's so many. Like, this is the beauty of football. Like, it's come from absolutely nowhere. But I 100% think that you have to include Man United now in that list of possible contenders. Like, say, if we go and get a win, Man City lose. They seem to be so. You just don't know what they're going to do. Like, say, I could see that result happening for Arsenal at the weekend. I could even see the Tottenham Man City result. But United just seem to be the team that are on the roll at the minute.
You were talking just before we went on air about how you haven't got a Premier League's winners medal, which I think I'm not even bantering. I think it's a joke. Like, because these days I think you've just got to turn up at the ground and you get one, don't you? Whereas I think in your day you had to play a certain amount of games.
So back in my day it was, I think you had to play 10 games.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 games, and there were a couple seasons where we won the Premier League and I did play 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 maybe or whatever. But no, never got anything. I remember even the Champions League, the Moscow 8. We win the Champions League final against Chelsea. I remember playing in some of the qualifying games in that tournament. I was fit all the way through the season, and then after the second semi-final or something like that, I ruptured a tendon or a ligament in my thumb. Couldn't even sit on the bench. Didn't get a medal for the winning the Champions League either. So I'm happy though, mate. I got my League Cup final winners medal against Tottenham, and I got my League Cup final winners medal for sitting on the bench against Aston Villa.
It's more than most Spurs players get, isn't it? So, but no, it's just a bit of a joke. But my point was going to be, you have been in dressing rooms and around United sides that have won titles. What would it be like in that United dressing room at the moment? Because they've never won a title. Will they be believing that, do you think? I mean, Ten Hag says take it game by game. Yeah. I personally think that if we beat Leeds home and away in Leicester, that'll be 9 points. In between that, Man City have got to play Arsenal. I think if United win their next 3, I'd say, there is a chance of it. I'm still a little bit dubious at the moment. But do you think the players will be starting to think like that, or do you think it's just too much going on?
I don't think they'll be thinking too much. I think they just need to keep this roll going. Like I said, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about United almost being better when it's under the radar a little bit. Do you know what I mean? When nobody's really talking about them. But if they wake up this morning and then on the back of the papers it's United are on a roll, United are on a charge, and they've got a chance of winning the Premier League, I think that almost gets in their head a little bit. But the beauty of having players like Bruno Fernandes and Rashford, who's world class at the minute, and Casemiro, an absolute winner. Do you know what I mean? These kind of players, Varane. It's just, no, lads, settle down, just keep doing what we're doing, and they're the sort of players you need. I think we'll talk about the Casemiro red card in a minute because it's an absolute shambles, by the way. But even if he gets a 3-game ban, I don't know what it's going to be yet. That's a disgrace, absolute disgrace.
We will talk about that in a minute, but you mentioned Bruno there, and I don't think Bruno gets enough credit because I think he's a player that when he first came in, he made such a big difference. And I think it's fair to say that at the end of last season, he got the contract, and people were like, even saying, he's got worse since he had the contract. Yeah. And then this season, I think he wasn't amazing at the start, but he was a lot better, and he's gradually got better. But one of the big things that has impressed me is his captaincy. And when we came out of the second half against Palace at the weekend, he was in the tunnel having a big chat with Fred before he came on. And that's something I'd love to know from the United players. Yeah. What's Bruno like as a captain? Because it's sort of gone under the radar. But his win percentage as captain and United's discipline. I mean, I know there was that. I actually quite liked that, I think, with Palace when it all kicked off, because I think that shows what the United teams used to play for. But Bruno as a captain, how much of an influence does a captain have on a modern team? Or is it just not that important?
Quite a lot. Really important. I think a prime example of somebody that's a really good sort of leader captain, who might not even be the captain, Xhaka for Arsenal. So Martin Odegaard is the guy that wears the armband, but the guy who's the leader on the pitch, the one that's pushing and pulling and poking and saying, no, come here, do this, all that, is Xhaka. And I think Bruno is kind of similar to that a little bit. Do you know what I mean? He's always looking, his head's always on a swivel, looking around, pulling players around, telling them where to go and all that. But like I say, that stuff in the tunnel, to be able to a Brazilian international, Fred, and go, no, do this, do this, do this, do this. You've got to be that responsible person. So I would say he is, without doubt, one person in the dressing room that people would look up to. I agree with what you're saying, though, about his form over the last couple of years. Like, the problem he had is, when he first signed and when he first joined, there's probably not many players in the history of the Premier League that have had a better first 6 months. Genuinely, that first 6 months he had, it was like, wow.
We got top 4 because of him.
Wow, you signed this lad from Sporting Lisbon, I think it was. Paid a lot of money for him, don't get me wrong. But the goals he was scoring, like he was a fancy Premier League legend, wasn't he? Yeah. Goals, assists, every single game, penalties, this stupid little run-up thing he does. But he was putting them all in the back of the net. So I think he had a lot to live up to from that first 6 months. But no, his performances for me have still been very, very good. Like I say, he might not have the outcome, the return that he got originally, but other players are doing it now. Rashford's stepping up and scoring those goals instead. So no, I'm happy with Bruno. I am. I've just put him into my fantasy team as well, and happy for him to score the penalty at the weekend. Yeah,
I think he's become a real team player, and I think the evolution of Bruno. I mean, you never get this. We talk about it all the time. The British media bias for British players. Yeah. I mean, they're still asking questions in the press conference about Harry Maguire, and it's like he's not actually played since August. Really, he's best of luck to him. Yeah. You know, if he'd probably be lifting a trophy as club captain.
We said this at the World Cup, though. Do you know what I mean? Like when the World Cup was on and Harry Maguire's doing really, really well for England. He was solid. You know, he was dependable, all that kind of stuff, and everyone was like, "Oh, is that going to be a springboard for his Man United career now?" No. I'm thinking, no, it's not. It won't be. Why would it be? Because he's got 3 or 4 better defenders, central defenders at Manchester United in front of him, which is his whole problem. And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about. Even though he's not playing, he's still probably a good player to have around the place.
Yeah.
Because he's a good lad. Honestly, he's a good lad. And I guarantee you, he's still one of those senior players that players look up to. Maybe not. Then maybe he's not going to be the guy that's going to be giving them advice for what's going on the pitch, but just how to be a bloke and be a human being and carry yourself and all that kind of stuff. He is one of those guys that people will still look up to. But yeah, he's struggling massively. Like I say, I think a move for him at the end of the season is probably the most likely outcome. You know what I mean? He's on high wages. They paid a lot of money for him. If they can recoup, 20, 30 million quid for Harry Maguire, I think it's a no-brainer.
And that's what I was going to say about Bruno. I think he does deserve a lot more credit than he gets in the media, because it's not easy to be a captain at the highest level, and United's win ratio is unbelievable. And the even if you think about that, we'll talk about the Casemiro red card and we'll lead into it on this way. 2-0 up. Yeah. Palace are a difficult team to break down. You're 2-0 up, you get that second goal. What a goal it was on the weekend of, we're recording this today on the day of February the 6th, which is the Munich anniversary, of course, which is a massive day for Manchester United fans. And obviously it'd be something you were aware of when you were at the club. Ten Hag said it he mentioned the Busby Babes. That second goal was so good. 7-player move and just a tap. That's one of my favourite Rashford goals, and it's a tap, and it's such a great goal. It's so reflective of what United's all about. 2-0 up. We'll talk about the red card in a minute, and then they get a goal back. It's Schlupp who scores, typically. And but I sat there for 15 minutes, and I was totally confident that we were going to see it out, even though there was no logic to it. And that's about 10 players in it together, organised, focused, and that's about the captain again. Because the manager can't do anything with 20 minutes to go. No, he can send a sub on, but someone's got to get him together and say, right, focus. And last 20 minutes, Bruno just deserves huge credit for the organisation.
Yeah, I don't even think it was just Bruno as well. I think the beauty of it now is you have got so many more leaders in that team. Like David De Gea pulling off big saves as well. Like again, David De Gea makes these saves and nobody ever really still talks about it, do we?
Because what they do, Ben, is they ignore that and then they clip the bit where he punched it.
Exactly, yeah. They'll just always focus on the negative stuff, but I'm thinking, no, that's a world-class save at a really important moment. But yeah, that's the beauty of it now is, like you say, I think over a year ago, they're probably coming back and drawing that game.
Oh, yeah. Probably said we don't win that game.
The writing is on the wall, you know what I mean? As soon as a red card happens, they get the goal from Jeffrey Schlupp, which was a sloppy goal. But either way, there you could just see another goal coming. But yeah, now you just know it's solid and safe and secure. And I think that's the beauty of it. When you have these kind of leaders on the pitch and the winners who have won things before, they see you over the line, they do.
Let's talk about the red cards. Lots of people spoke about it over the weekend. I've had my say as well. I mean, it starts off with Anthony gets under people's skin. That's very, very clear. And I mean, I've seen it. And as far as violent conduct goes, where do you draw the line? Because it all starts because Schlupp, with no intention of hitting the ball, body checks a player into the side hoardings, and then it all goes from there. Naughty, yellow card for Schlupp, yellow card for Anthony, and then we get this, they're reviewing for a red card, and I'm watching it, and he's got his hands on him. And even if he has got his hands on his neck, for me, it's not violent, he's holding him off.
No.
And then he gets sent off. And then lo and behold, we find out after that the twat on VAR hasn't bothered to check everything, because there's a bit where Ayew grabs Fred like this and goes like that and shoves him away on the net.
So the bit where Will Hughes, like, I know Will Hughes very well. I was at Watford with him for a long time, and Will Hughes, I love him to bits, but he's a little dickhead is what he is, all right? He's a wind-up merchant.
There's nothing wrong with being a shithouse, is there?
He is well classed at it as well, right? He's so good at winding people up and getting under the skin of people. So he would have acted like, he would have incited that so much. It's clever, like, it's clever play, like, really, really clever play. He would have incited that, and then when Casemiro puts his hands on him, and he don't grab him, he don't grip him, do you know what I mean?
He's not throttling him, is he?
He's not throttling him. It's like literally a move kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was it, yeah. It's just that he's used two hands and it just happens to go there. Will Hughes then plays like the victim, like you wouldn't believe, to a T. He's like shocked and he's like, oh, it hurts and all this kind of thing. But he's done what he needed to do, and the player's got a red card, and it gives Crystal Palace a chance to get back into the game. But it's not a red card. Anybody can see that he's literally just trying to sort of move him away a little bit. Like I say, the one that Ayew did, that is more aggressive, and there's more...
I wouldn't have given Ayew a red card either.
Exactly, yeah. There's more intent in the Ayew one, yeah, than there is in the Casemiro one, and none of them are red cards. Absolutely zero chance of them. What they should have been is a red card. So hopefully they just have a look at it properly and make a common sense decision. I'm not saying they overturn it. Maybe they just give him a one-game ban or whatever. They might overturn it. I think if common sense prevails, they might overturn it, but you never know what they're going to do with these guys, do you?
I think the problem is that, you know, for me, you give the yellow card to Anthony and thingy, and then you play on with the game. Yeah. It's not bloody rugby, it's not NFL, it's football.
It's
you get on with it.
It's pathetic.
But if you're going to go and find that,
yeah,
you've got to go and find the other stuff, and you're never going to find the other stuff in a minute in a game like that, because there's so much going on. Yeah. So, and I think that the VAR and the referee think they're being really clever because they've spotted something, but there's probably 80% of stuff you don't know. It's like watching the end of a film, innit, and going, I know what happened, but you've not watched it.
Yeah, I think if that is a Leeds versus Everton game, yeah, that does not even get looked at. I promise you, it does not even get looked at. Because it's Manchester United, it's like they have to find something. We've got to find something here, lads. Eyes peeled, all right? Just you watch that corner, I watch this corner. And that's what they're doing, and it's just over the top and pathetic. There's no need for it.
Yeah, we'll see where the common sense prevails. I don't think it will.
No,
You're of the age of me,
FA,
you know what it's like. They don't accept when they get it wrong. Yeah.
Miles off it.
One player who's on it this weekend, he's broken the Spurs goal record, is Harry Kane. He doesn't play for Manchester United, but there was a lot of stuff over the weekend. Man United need a striker. Anthony Martial was out again at the weekend. He played against Forest midweek. We thought he'd be coming back from his fourth injury. He gets a fifth injury and he's out. He's not even on the bench. United need a striker. Most people like myself would be looking at the Napoli striker Osimhen. There's Sesko. There's many of others out there. But Harry Kane is there. He'll be 30 in the summer. He's never going to win anything at Spurs. He wants to break the Premier League goal record. He's broken the Spurs goal record. Is that a move Man United should be making in the summer?
100% if they can do it. Depends how much you're going to have to pay for him. Spurs aren't going to want to sell. Harry Kane, I think, would probably be open to it. I think now that he's broke the Spurs scoring record, he'd probably be open to it. But he's going to cost you best part of 90 mil still. Even at 30 years old, I still think he's going to cost you. I still think he's going to cost an awful lot of money. I really do, just because he's guaranteed. That's the thing with Harry Kane. He is absolutely guaranteed to score you guys. And I think he still
did work in the United side though, because Spurs don't play with a 10, and he drops so deep.
I know he does, but I think
would he be able to go back to being number 9?
As long as Ten Hag can get it drilled into him that no, mate, we don't need you there, all right? We've got really good players in that position, yeah. Just stay up there, but he'll score you goals, mate. He will. He'll score you goals. Like at Man United, he would score easily 22, 23, 24 goals a season, guaranteed for the next 4 years. And I think that's the beauty of getting Harry Kane. All the players that you mentioned a minute ago, people like Osimhen and all that, it's a big risk still. But Victor Osimhen, like Napoli paid how much for him? 80 million quid, and this was a few years back, so they're going to want 100 mil for him.
I don't think United will get
him. And he's not guaranteed to do it in the Premier League. You know, there's a big difference between doing it in the Italian league than what it is doing it in the Premier League. And like I say, Harry Kane he's guaranteed. So if you're going to spend 80, 90 million quid, do it on Harry Kane.
See, my issues are age. He'll be 30 in the summer. I don't think English strikers do well in their 30s, and he's played a lot of football. I don't think he would like just being told to stay in the penalty box.
Yeah.
I think he's seen for England and Spurs, he loves to drop deep. And
I think that will save his legs a bit more, though. I
think if
he looks at it on paper and does the pros and cons, and he goes, actually, do you know what? If I tailor my game a little bit more, I might be able to go till I'm 35, 36 here. Do you know what I mean? Man United have had some unbelievable strikers playing into their 36, 37, 38. People like Teddy Sheringham, do you remember, back in the day, where people are thinking, he's an old striker, he can't go and do it. Of course he can go and do it. He is. He's a clever player. I think Harry Kane is clever enough to tailor his game so that it will benefit him, so that he can play longer. But you're going to need somebody, because Martial is just too unreliable. I said this to you ages ago as well, that he will always get injured, and that's just the way that his body's built. He can't cope with playing this amount of football. You know, I think for the rest of his career, he'll only play probably in about 60% of the games that season.
Have you ever played with a player? You don't have to name him. Have you ever trained or played with a player? Because I was trying to talk about this at the weekend, and people were like, oh, they were getting at Martial, and I said, nah, even when I was at school, there was some lads who always had a pulled muscle, and then there were some people you'd nearly break the leg and they play the next game. It's just body type.
I remember, but even when I was at United, Louis Saha, Louis Saha was unbelievable. He was incredible, right? Honestly, you speak to any of the United lads of that era, they will tell you Louis Saha,
left-footed striker as well.
What a beautiful player, power, pace, everything. Great lad, like did it properly, all that kind of stuff. But his muscles were just too strong for his body. I promise you, that was his problem. He had so much power, right, that any time he just went to push off and sprint, something would ping and zing and pull off or whatever. So it got in his head, and then he was never the same sort of player, because he's constantly thinking, I can't push off, and then he doesn't know how much to push off or gauge it, and he was just constantly injured all the time. So that exact thing, some people's bodies just aren't built to withstand playing regularly first team football. It's a really hard thing to do. So when you've got a player like, say Harry Kane, I know he's had his ankle injuries in the past and stuff, but over the last few years, he's proven that he's found a way to find what works for his body.
Well, Ryan Giggs did this, didn't he? He had to learn a different way to run.
He was doing a lot of yoga. He just learned.
He never ran at 100% again, did he? He learned a different way to run to stop.
But it tailored his game to it as well, though. Became a sort of a different play. He weren't going to be the out-and-out winger that's going to be dribbling around players and scoring those goals like he scored against Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? And smashing it in the corner. He learned to be a different type of player, and I think that's the beauty with players like Harry Kane. They're clever enough to be able to do that.
Ben Foster giving the Harry Kane seal of approval there.
If United sign Harry Kane, that's world class.
I'm still against it.
Miles off it.
I'm not totally against it, but for the reasons I said.
Genuinely, would you rather have than Harry Kane?
Osman, Sesko. I want a younger profile striker.
Yeah, but I think it's a risk, mate. I do.
And I also think that a younger profile striker coming in under Bruno and Rashford suits the team better than bringing Harry Kane in when, you know, Rashford might be a little bit like, Kane might be a little bit like, you know, who's the main man? You know, I don't know.
Kane ain't that guy, mate. Kane looks like a team player.
I'll tell you what, he wouldn't get much service as well. United need to change their front three, because we don't, even with Weghorst at the weekend, Martial, it's funny, Rashford goes up front and Garnacho gives him service, but Rashford and Anthony don't give the striker service.
The beauty of this at the minute is, though, that United are playing with Weghorst up front, and they're still winning games relentlessly. Do you know what I mean? This is some going, to be fair. Fair play to Ten Hag for bringing somebody like that in. Like I say, he's not going to score you a bucket full of goals, but he's kind of effective at what he does, at least, isn't he?
I'll tell you what, going back to title race, though, that does still bother me, the January transfer window. Yeah. If we're talking about potentially being in a title race and you look at what United did in the transfer window, it's pitiful for a manager and a team that's done so well with what they've got. You know, if they did have a Gakpo or a João Felix.
Can you imagine, Can you imagine if come the end of the season United fall short by 2 or 3 points, 1 or 2 or 3 points,
again.
And then they're just a couple goals short of this or that, whatever. Oh gosh, that is going to be a problem.
Well, our goal scoring record's not good. Our goal difference is really low.
Defensively, you're absolutely sound, but it's just
1 or 2 nils,
crying out for somebody to just put the ball in the back of the net.
We don't kill many games. No. Even at the weekend, you know, you maybe could have been 3 or 4 nil up in that, but we don't kill games. Anyway,
Harry Kane would kill the games. Harry Kane would have killed that game. It would have been 4-0 outside. Boom. See you later.
Assist, goal. You see, set you up there. Anyway, we'll kill the show. Thanks everyone for watching. Always a pleasure to have Ben on. Good chats today, and we will see where we are next week when we'll have played Leeds twice. Next Monday we'll have played Leeds twice. 6 points.
Knocking on the door is where you're going to be.
Thanks everyone for watching. We'll speak soon.